Was Washington written about as really who he was up until 1926?
Yes, 1926 is the first time. And the 1927 book that went back and rebutted the 1926 book noted that G and W had really stood, they were recognizable initials anywhere in the nation. When you had GW, you knew that was George Washington. And this author, W.E. Woodward, in 1926, had taken G and W, and according to these critics, that they made GW mean godless and wanton. I mean, that's the first time they attacked Washington or his character. Wow. Came up with it. That book has no footnotes in it, attacked Washington all over, but this is a very secular guy. It's a guy who does not like the religious tone of America, and he wants to separate America from this leader who's so pro-religious, who really was very moral. I mean, there is not a charge against George Washington, any kind of immorality, till this knucklehead comes up with it in 1926.
Wow. I think what we're really debating here, Dave, is that ultimately history has somewhat been rewritten.
That's right. I mean, this is not something you make up and say, if only we had been this. We're saying, no, this is who we are, this is what happened. And history is being rewritten. That's why Washington over the last 40 years has become the subject of so many attacks. There are numerous books out now that say he is one of the deist founding fathers. He's one of the irreligious guys. He did not believe in religion, and you go, the most religious president we've had who set the religious tone. Matter of fact, this is one of the cool documents in American history. That is the first ever federal Thanksgiving proclamation we had in U.S. government, issued by George Washington, signed right down there at the bottom, George Washington. And I tell you, if you're a secular person, this is an embarrassingly religious document.
Wow.
There's nothing secular about this. There's no tone. You won't find deism in here, which they claim him to be. But to say that Washington's a deist, they say, well, he uses tones like omnipotent Father instead of using Jesus Christ. If you read Washington's writings, you'll find that George Washington has 54 biblical descriptions of God that he uses in writing. Now, I want to know somebody from the religious right today who has 54 biblical understandings into who God Almighty is. Yeah. So they take a few of those phrases out, the great shepherd of our soul or whatever, and they say, oh, that's deistic, that's not religious. 54 different terms he uses out of the Bible to describe God. That is a man with a biblical understanding, with a great concept of who God is. But if you only want to take 4 or 5 or 6 of those titles, then you can say, oh, he's a deist. He also uses Jesus Christ. He also uses Christian. He also uses Savior. He also uses Redeemer. These are all terms that he uses. Wow. But we won't talk about those. We're going to say he's a deist. And therefore, since he's a deist, he wouldn't want religious activities in public affairs. So that's what the debate's over. That's why people fight over history, because it affects public policy.